It was a dark and stormy night. Hey guys, Pat Parker here with 52 Books. I'm sitting out here at the lake house and there's a storm blowing up. So that got me to thinking, have you ever wondered where the phrase "it was a dark and stormy night" came from? Well, let me tell you about that. I did some digging on the interwebs and found an article on LitHub by Emily Temple where she describes the origin of the phrase. A lot of times it's attributed to Edward Bulwer Lytton in a story titled Paul Clifford from 1830, but he was not the first nor the last to use the phrase. Washington Irving used the phrase in a book titled History of New York in 1809. It occurred again in Madeline L'Engle's Wrinkle in Time in 1962. Ray Bradbury uses the phrase in Let's All Kill Constance in 2002. Edgar Allan Poe, The Bargain Lost in 1832. Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett sort of turned the phrase on its head by starting with "it was not a dark and stormy night." That was in 1990. And of course, Charles Schulz, the famous cartoonist from Peanuts. Snoopy's always trying to write a best-selling novel, and it always starts with "it was a dark and stormy night." Well, all this dark and stormy night business got me to thinking about books that feature a violent storm. And I've put together a list for you, some of which I have read, some of which I've not, but the ones that I have not read all sound absolutely fabulous. So here is my list of books that feature a terrible storm. All right, number one, Storm of the Century by Stephen King. All right, I know I'm cheating because Storm of the Century was never a book or a short story. It was a screenplay written by Stephen King and made directly into a movie. Well, it turns out that it's my favorite of Stephen King's screenplays. Storm of the Century is about a demon named Lenoge. His name is an anagram for Legion, and he comes to this New England town in the midst of a terrible snowstorm where he is trapped with the inhabitants of this town, and he preys upon their malice and hatred for each other and their misdeeds. All right, number two, Perfect Storm by Sebastian Junger. Y'all all remember the movie where Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch went fishing and got swept off by the hurricane and drowned. Well, it was a book before it was a hurricane. Before it, damn it.
Drownded.
All right, y'all, just had a crisis there where my wife started heckling me and I started laughing so bad that I had to take a break. Number two in my list of books that feature a terrible storm is The Perfect Storm by Sebastian Junger. Y'all all remember the movie where Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch went fishing and got blown off by a hurricane and drowned. Well, it was a best-selling book before it was a movie, and both the movie and the book are fantastic. All right, number three in my list of books that feature a terrible storm, Lord of the Rings. The Fellowship, the first book, features a scene where Gandalf and the gang try to cross Caradhras Pass, and a terrible storm is brewed up by their enemy, a magician, a wizard, and they're forced to turn back because the snows are so bad that there's no way to pass Caradras Pass. All right, number 4 on my list, Twister. Did y'all know that Michael Crichton wrote the screenplay for Twister? Well, he did, and you can purchase the screenplay, but I've heard that the movie is better, so don't waste your time or money. Number 5, In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick is a non-fiction story about a whaling ship that was struck and sunk by a sperm whale in the middle of the ocean, leaving all the survivors in small boats in the middle of the ocean for months. And it's an exciting story about dehydration and starvation and cannibalism and all sorts of nautical awesomeness. All right, the next one on my list of books with storms, Typhoon by Joseph Conrad. This is another South Pacific terrible storm wrecks the ship sort of book. That seems to have been a trope in the 1800s. The next one is a bit older than that. The Tempest by Shakespeare begins with a violent storm that shipwrecks a handful of folks, scatters them on this island where they meet Ariel and Caliban and Prospero and all those guys. The next one I think a lot of folks will be familiar with is Dune. Y'all remember the terrible sandstorm in the beginning of the movie where they try to get their ornithopters and go and grab their spice mining operation? Well, Arrakis is apparently so big with such violent weather that they have these sandstorms like the size of a continent that blow through and wreck everything. All right, the last one on my list of books that feature a storm, I'm sure there's more, but this is the few that I came up with off the top of my head, is an old book called Manuscript Found in a Bottle by Edgar Allan Poe. Yet another ship in the South Pacific getting sunk and terrible storm. All right, so if you enjoy this sort of content, be sure and like and subscribe, and I'll try not to choke to death next time when my wife heckles me. Thank you.